Good to have you, sir. What did you make of that? I don't know whether that was a little nice ribbing or what, but what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure we're going into surgery, but I am certainly glad to welcome my friend Rick Perry into the presidential race. I think he was a terrific governor of my state of Texas. He's a friend, and I think his entry into the race will elevate the debate. I'm very glad to have him join us. I think he'll do a good job, and I'm glad to welcome him.
You're a gentleman, but you know what he's saying, that senators are just not the guys to run for president. Governors are. They have a record. Senators really are working in this collegial body, and you're new at it besides. So, no, been there, done that with the likes of Barack Obama. You say what?
Well, you know, Neil, I think we're going to have a robust debate. We're having it right now about who is best to be the Republican nominee and to beat Hillary Clinton. I think what Republican primary voters are looking for is trust. They want someone who they know will tell them the truth and will do what they said they would do. And I think what I'm hearing from the grassroots, you know, we're seeing enormous enthusiasm in the grassroots. We've had over 100,000 people go to tedcruz.org, financially support the campaign. And what I'm hearing from the grassroots, the reason we're getting so much support is that I've tried every day to do what I said I would do and tell the truth, and primary voters are looking for someone who will stand up and fight and defend conservative principles over and over and over again consistently. That's what we're looking for. I think that's what the whole debate's going to be about.
You know, you started this dance coming in, and now you've got, 9 others joining you. Then I wonder if that has in a way lessened your appeal. I mean, by that you made a big impression on a lot of folks. Jack Welch loved your enthusiasm and passion. I assume still does. I've talked to the likes of Mika Mosbacher, the widow of Bob Mosbacher, secretary under President Bush Sr. So you won a lot of fans, but now you're getting lost, at least in the polling sauce. Are you worried?
Well, I'll tell you, I have been astonished at the support we've seen. I think it has exceeded any and all reasonable expectations. We started the campaign right after we launched. Heidi and I went on a barnstorming tour of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, had standing room only crowds. The local press reported the crowds coming out were much larger and, in fact, double the size of other candidates in the race. Double the size of Jeb Bush's, double the size of Scott Walker's.
Are they still that way now, Senator?
They are. Just this weekend, I was up in New Hampshire. We had a rally with 600 people. The next day, we went to Andover, Massachusetts, had 650 people come in bright blue Massachusetts. And just last night, I was in Michigan. And we had, again, about 600 people come out. People are hungry for someone who will tell them the truth. And then I think the second component of it, Neil, it's going to take 2 things to win this nomination. One, grassroots support. And the energy we're seeing is extraordinary. But 2, it's going to take money. I think for anyone to be a serious candidate, he or she is going to need to raise at least $50 million between now and South Carolina. And I think there are only a handful of candidates who have a prayer of doing so. Right now, between our campaign and the Super PAC, we've raised over $40 million. We have shattered records, and it's because...
I'm sorry, you've raised $40 million now.
In the first week of the campaign itself raised $4.3 million. That was over 51,000 contributions from all 50 states. 95% of those contributions were $100 or less. And just this week, the Super PAC that's supporting us, we can't coordinate with them, but they announced publicly that they have already raised over $37 million in the bank. And that, both of those are record-shattering. And I think it's because
that's an impressive financial,
want to change the path.
That's an impressive financial haul. And now, I don't know how the others stack up. I know Jeb Bush, we're told, could have upwards of $100 million before he even announces. Now we're told in a couple of weeks at that. A lot of your opponents have $20, $30 million, but there are a lot of you who have a lot more money than you would think, and certainly more than we saw versus Mitt Romney 4 years ago. So I'm beginning to wonder if that means, Senator, we will have a lot of guys who would otherwise, if they have a bumpy faring in the beginning, stay in longer because they do have the money, they do have the support, and thereby push this to be decided at the convention. In other words, we don't have a nominee by the convention. What do you think?
Well, look, you're right. Jeb Bush is going to shatter every fundraising record that's ever going to set. I think he's going to raise way north of $100 million. Among the donors, he is Mick Jagger and the Beatles rolled into one. But you got to get actual, real, live primary votes. And in my experience, Grassroots plus money will beat a whole lot more money just about every day of the week. When you get beyond Jeb Bush, there are only a couple of other candidates who I think have the potential to raise the funds it's going to take to run a nationwide campaign. Not a Hail Mary in one or two states, but a nationwide campaign. That's what we're doing. And that combination of grassroots plus donor support, small dollar, large dollar, the business community, all coming together, fed up with the corruption in Washington and wanting to get back to basic free market principles and our constitutional liberties.
All right. A lot of your colleagues, Senator Cruz, think that your other colleague, Rand Paul, who's also running for president, overplayed his hand and hurt himself on this battle over the Patriot Act and NSA funding that has since been resolved. Do you think he did?
Oh, you know, I'm a big fan of Rand Paul. Rand and I have agreed on a great many issues. I disagreed with him on this particular issue. I was an original sponsor of the USA Freedom Act, which I think is the right policy solution. The USA Freedom Act does two things. Number one, it ends the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata. I think it was wrong for the federal government to be seizing your and my phone metadata in bulk. The USA Freedom Act abolishes that. But secondly, the USA Freedom Act preserves the tools, national security and law enforcement, to stop acts of terrorism, to seize the communications of specific individuals with connections to radical Islamic terrorism. That's the way it's supposed to work. We've got to do both, protect civil liberties and keep law-abiding Americans safe.
But he says it doesn't do that, Senator, and I'm wondering whether there's been a divide here between because a lot of people kind of put you two in that camp. You were in a different camp than he, and I'm wondering if this is your way of saying this is the right balance of privacy and security concerns, and Rand Paul doesn't get it.
You know, Neil, when it comes to legislating and solving problems, I was proud to join with my very good friend, Senator Mike Lee, in crafting this bipartisan legislation. The USA Freedom Act, which Mike Lee and I fought for, passed overwhelmingly in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And as a result of that leadership, we are ending the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata. We're protecting the Fourth and Fifth Amendment privacy rights in the Bill of Rights. That's exactly what we should be doing. But we're also protecting our national security. And we've got a responsibility to keep American citizens safe from radical Islamic terrorism. I think it's exactly the right balance. I also think it's where the American people are.
Do you share Rand Paul's views that some of the Republicans who have been championing this and tighter restrictions for making sure we protect our security are the same reactionaries who brought us to this brink? In other words, brought us to these wars and everything else.
Oh, look, I recognize that there has been a heated war of words between some Republicans and other Republicans, and I would note that there are a lot of media outlets who there's nothing they love more than Republican on Republican violence. I don't intend to engage in that game. I'm a big fan of Rand Paul's. We agree on a lot of issues. I expect we'll agree on a lot of issues going forward, but on this one, the right balance was the bipartisan legislation that ended the bulk collection of phone metadata and that protects our national security at the same time.
You know, Senator, as you're speaking, Hillary Clinton is in Texas today. She was in Texas. She's watching it out, but she's been getting a lot of financial interest and like she too has a lot of money. Her negatives are driving up, though, but yet even now, with all of that, in poll after poll after poll, with each and every one of the Republican candidates, she's still leading. What do you make of that?
Oh, look, I think early polls right now don't make a whole lot of difference. She's got universal name ID, and all the Democrats are unified behind us. We've got a robust, a diverse field. You know, I'm thrilled with the field. All of the senators, the governors, young, dynamic candidates. I think that's a reflection of diversity. It's a reflection people are hungry for a change. You know, I will note it's curious that she's going to Texas. I guess there's some trial lawyers there, but last I checked, there aren't any foreign nations in Texas to write her $1 million checks to the campaign or to give her husband speaking fees. And you know, that's...
No, I think they call that a zinger, Senator. But I do want to get back to this idea that, you know, to obviously get a chance to beat her, assuming she's the nominee, and other people are saying, you know, given all these latest Democratic entrants, that's not such a sure thing. But this idea that on economic think matters. How will Ted Cruz differentiate himself from this battle back and forth the party, what to do with Social Security? I wanted to see if you don't mind, sir, listening to a clip of a chat I had with Mike Huckabee, who doesn't want to touch Social Security. This is from Orlando.
If all the other Republican candidates for president want to stand on one side of the stage and say that they're going to cut people's Social Security and cut their Medicare benefits after they paid in for 50 years of work, and I'm the only one on the other side of the stage saying I won't do that, I'm happy to be in that very short line.
That means it's politically prudent.
No, it means that I believe that the government ought to honor its promises to people.
Right, as you know, sir, Chris Christie has said just the opposite. We've got to means test Social Security, raise the retirement age. We have to be honest with the American people. They can't keep going in this direction. And then along you have Governor Huckabee says, don't touch it. It's fine. What do you say?
Oh, look, I like Governor Huckabee. I think it's possible to do both. I think the responsible thing is to step in and preserve and reform Social Security and Medicare. I think what politicians in Washington are doing right now, allowing it to careen towards insolvency, is fundamentally irresponsible.
So what does that mean?
Does
that mean that you would have eventually raised the retirement age? Would you means test it? What?
Well, it means you do both. For seniors and for those who are near retirement, you make no changes whatsoever. I think Governor Huckabee is exactly right in that regard, that we need to honor the commitments that have been made to our seniors who've depended on them in order to their financial affairs.
What do you mean by close to retirement, Senator? Those who are 5, 10 years away, what?
Those within a few years, and let me contrast it, Neil, to people my age. I'm 44. It is hard to find someone my generation who believes Social Security will be there for them. And I think that gives us an opportunity for common sense reforms, the reforms I'd like to see. And I'm campaigning on fundamental reform to preserve entitlements. We ought to gradually increase the retirement age. We ought to change the rate of increase in benefits so that it matches inflation rather than exceeding inflation. Both of those for younger workers, people my age. And third, and this is critical, we ought to allow younger workers to keep a portion of their tax payments in a personal account that they own, that they control, that can grow at market rates, and that they can pass on to their kids and grandkids. That's the kind of bipartisan leadership we need, and it's what, if I'm elected in November 2016, I hope to lead the effort to make it happen and preserve and strengthen Social Security and Medicare for decades going forward.
You know, running for president, as you know, Senator, it involves substance, what you know, and the issues, how comfortable we are with it. It also involves a lot of esoteric features. Some would even say cosmetic features. Jack Welch, when I talked to him, who's a big fan of yours, had this criticism. I want you to listen to this.
This country needs more truth and trust. Ted Cruz says what he's going to do, and he does it. And he's as smart as a whip, and he's a good bet on right now. I want Ted Cruz to smile more, because he's a hell of a good guy.
Smile more. What did you think of that?
Oh, I think it's great advice. I'm a big fan of Jack Welch's. He's been very kind in recognizing we can't keep going with a failed business model. That we've got to do something new. We've got to energize and bring voters back. And, you know, he mentioned people are looking for someone who will do what he said he would do. And I think it is very meaningful. Jack Welch may well be the most respected former CEO in this country. And what he recognizes, you don't keep pouring money into a business model that fails.
Well, you know,
you try
he's
something
smart.
different.
No, he's smart, Senator, but he hasn't always made the right decision. He put me on the air, so that doesn't mean he's always hitting it out of the park.
We can thank him for his brilliance there.
But let me get your final sense of where this race goes. You have a lot of money. You do have a lot of passionate support. I take none of that away, sir. But I do want to get this notion of, you know, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Do you have to win one of those three outright?
Well, listen, if you look historically, since World War II, no one has ever won the nomination without winning at least one of those first three. That has certainly been history. You know, I think it's an interesting challenge for a number of other these candidates. You know, you look at, the media describes, for example, Jeb Bush frequently as the front runner. It becomes an interesting question when you ask, which of those states does he win? I'll tell you what we intend to do. I'm competing vigorously in all three of those early states.
What about
Iowa,
Florida?
New Hampshire,
are you competing in that state, even though it's a Rubio-Bush mano-a-mano deal?
Oh, sure. Look, we're competing nationwide. We're competing in Nevada. Yesterday I was in Michigan. Tonight I'm flying to North Carolina. We are competing. I was in Massachusetts. We are competing nationwide. We're putting together a team on the ground, a grassroots team nationwide, and we're raising money in all 50 states Over 100,000 people have gone to tedcruz.org, supported the campaign. That's really the strength of it. It is courageous conservatives saying what we're doing isn't working.
All right. It's always a pleasure, Senator. I see you're smiling a lot more, so maybe Jack Welch had some magic. Seriously, very good having you, Senator Ted Cruz, in Washington.